So this is an overview of everything we will discuss today. I'm going to start with introductions, basically an overview of Advocates for Children, who we are and what services we provide. I'll go over 3K and pre-K programs, a description of what the programs offer and where they're located. Then we'll talk specifically about the 3K and pre-K applications, how to apply, how to research programs, how likely you are to receive an offer. We'll go over some special populations, so additional rights that certain students have. Then we'll talk about some of the other early childhood program options, including infant and toddler programs, Head Start, and we'll end with resources. Throughout this presentation, we will pause for questions. So if you do have any questions, place them in the chat, put them in the Q&A, and we will be breaking periodically to go over those. All right. So who are we? Who is Advocates for Children? AFC is an independent agency that protects the educational rights of all New York City students. We were founded in 1971 by a group of parents, and our focus was on protecting the rights of students with disabilities. Since then, our mission has grown and our team has grown. So we have lawyers, social workers, and advocates on staff, all working towards improving the educational outcomes for all New York City students from birth through the end of high school and sometimes beyond. Some of the services that we offer, we have a helpline that anyone can call, parent, professional, or other, students too, if you have a question relating to a student's education. Our helpline is open Monday through Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The number is 1-866-427-6033. If you do not reach someone when you call, please leave a voicemail. Our goal is to get back to everyone within a couple of days. We provide free legal services for low-income families. We have a limited capacity here, so we rely really on our helpline to help screen and recommend which cases we are able to take on for representation. We have guides and resources. A lot of them are available online. You can follow this link, including all of our resources for early childhood education that we will link to at the end. We conduct workshops and trainings. Some of them are webinars. We also do in-person workshops. If you are here from a school or from a program that would like us to do a workshop for you, you can contact us and we can go conduct a workshop at your program. We also engage in policy advocacy and impacts litigation, and this is so that we can really achieve systemic change or achieve change beyond helping an individual student and family, but really see change across the city and sometimes state level. Okay, so that was AFC. We'll focus now on the early childhood education programs that you came to learn about. So the New York City Public Schools, also known as the DOE, I'll probably use the term DOE more throughout this presentation, runs several programs for children from 6 weeks old through kindergarten, including the infant and toddler program, 3K and pre-K, which are the programs we will focus on today, City Transition. These used to be known as Head Start programs that I don't want to get complicated or wonky. The Head Start seats, the Department of Education no longer operates the Head Start seats, but they do have the City Transition as those seats transition away. And so these programs are still available this school year and will be available next school year. Coming soon is the 2Care program, which is going to be, the goal is to be universal childcare for children who are 2. And just launched this year, there is a Birth to 2 or B to 2 childcare initiative. And this is similar to the infant and toddler program in that it serves children from 6 weeks to 2 years old, but children in these programs do not need to meet additional eligibility requirements. We'll go over the infant and toddler, Birth to 2, and 2Care near the end of the presentation, and City Transition near the end of the presentation. And we'll get started with 3K and pre-K now. So what is 3K? As I mentioned, this is a program that's run and managed by the Department of Education, and these are high-quality early childhood education programs. They start in September of the year a child turns 3. So for September of 2026, all children who were born in 2023 are eligible to apply. The program has been expanding since it launched, and now the goal is that for this school year, every child will be guaranteed a seat. So every child who applies should be able to receive a placement offer, and the hope is that that placement offer is one that you've indicated is one that you would like for your child and that it's close to your home and accessible to you. 3K programs are free school day programs that run for 6 hours and 20 minutes. And some programs are also able to run for additional hours, including longer days and also year-round services. Those programs that offer extended hours and year-round services usually have some additional eligibility requirements that we will cover later in the presentation. Where are 3K programs located? So these are what we consider the 3K settings. 3K is offered in district schools, which are DOE public elementary schools overseen by a school principal. These are the same schools that you are familiar with for kindergarten through fifth grade. There are also pre-K centers. These are centers run by the Department of Education, but they only offer pre-K and 3K classes. So they are preschool programs run by the Department of Education. 3K can also be found in New York City early education centers. Sometimes these are known with the acronym of NYCEEC, so NYCEEC. New York City Early Childhood Education Centers are community-based organizations, so the DOE partners with these organizations to run 3K and pre-K programs. Many of these organizations, many of these CBOs, also offer services for children, for infant and toddlers and younger children. Then there are family childcare programs. These are home-based programs with a licensed professional, and family childcare serves children from birth to 3 under the Department of Education. Like the CBOs, these are programs that contract with the Department of Education, so the DOE does have oversight of these programs, and they are held to the same standards as other 3K programs. I'm going to pause quickly to see if there are any questions. I know we just got started, but that was a good amount about 3K, so just wanted to see if there's anything in the chat or in the Q&A. Okay, looks like nothing yet, so we'll keep going. Okay, so pre-K. Pre-K is the early childhood education programs for children who are 4. And children can start the program in September of the year that they turn 4. So for September of 2026, all children born in 2022 are eligible to apply. Almost since its launch, pre-K has guaranteed a seat for every child who applies. So every family who submits their application on time will receive an offer to a program. The pre-K programs are free school day programs for 6 hours and 20 minutes, and some programs also offer extended hours and year-round services. As I mentioned with 3K, these programs typically have additional eligibility requirements. Some may also require a family to pay a small fee, usually on a sliding scale, in order to benefit from those additional hours. And we will go over that, as I indicated, over the additional eligibility requirements later in the presentation. Pre-K settings. So like 3K, you can also find pre-K programs in district schools, so the DOE elementary schools, in pre-K centers, which are the DOE programs for children who are 3 and 4, in New York City early education centers, so those community-based organizations, and also in charter schools. So unlike the difference here, charter schools is available for pre-K, but as you can see, family childcare is not an option for pre-K, so for the children who are 4 years old. The programs offered in district schools and pre-K centers are the school day programs, and the NYCEECs are, and as well as the charter schools. The NYCEECs or early education centers are the programs that may be able to offer those additional hours and year-round services. Okay, so let's see how much you know already about 3K and pre-K. So quick trivia. The DOE provides busing to preschoolers attending 3K and pre-K in the following settings. A, district schools. B, pre-K centers. C, New York City early education centers. D, all of the above, or E, none of the above. Gonna give folks like 10 more seconds. Okay, so it looks like most of you answered correctly. The correct answer is E, none of the above. The New York City Department of Education does not provide transportation for 3K and pre-K programs. There are only few exceptions that we will go over for children in shelter, students in foster care, and children with disabilities. Um, and for the most part, even though those children may receive transportation services, busing is not guaranteed. So I point this out, one, for you to keep in mind when researching programs, how you'll be able to get your child to the program. And also, two, just to highlight that this is not a area of distinction between the different setting types. Whether you prefer that your child attend a district school, pre-K center, or a community-based organization, a New York City Early Education Center, busing should not factor in. There are many other factors you may want to consider, including, for a district school, if you have older siblings or your child has older siblings already attending that school. If you like that a pre-K center is, preschool specific and so only for children from 3 to 5, or if your child's already been attending an infant and toddler program and you want them to remain in that program until they go to kindergarten. So those are all factors for you to consider. Transportation is not going to be a deciding factor in the settings, or won't make a difference for most children. Okay. So 3K and pre-K seat types. In addition to offering seats in different settings, so different schools or locations, there are also different types of seats available. And I've referenced some of this already. So the free programs that are available for all in 3K and pre-K are the school day programs. These are the programs that run for 6 hours and 20 minutes for the 10-month school year. So they really follow the school year calendar that you're familiar with for older students. They are free programs and they are available for all families. There's not additional eligibility requirements for the school day programs. Then there are seats that offer extended day and year. The benefit of these programs is that, or these types of seats, is that they run for up to 10 hours a day. They're year round, so 12 months of the year. But they come with additional eligibility requirements, usually related to the family's income and need for care. And some families may have to pay a small fee in order to benefit from those extra hours. Then there are the city transitional programs, formerly Head Start. These are, they also last longer. They are programs that run for at least 8 hours a day. They're year round, so this full calendar year. And these programs also come with additional eligibility requirements, either through income, involvement in the foster care system, in the shelter system, or other factors that we will go over near the end of the presentation. The programs that are located in district schools and pre-K centers are school day programs. They are the programs that run for 6 hours, 20 minutes, 10 months. Everyone is eligible for those programs. The extended day year program can be found in some, but not all, of the New York City Early Education Centers. And the city transitional programs are also in New York City Early Childhood Education Centers, or CBOs. Okay. So now that you are familiar with 3K and pre-K programs and the different seat types and locations that they're available, we're going to start talking about the application process. And so I'm going to begin with a broad overview, and then we're going to go into each of these in more detail. So the first step of the process is researching programs, exploring your options, getting to know what's near your home, what's near your work, where your child has the best chances of getting an offer. And so really thinking about where you want to apply. Then by February 27th, you should apply to these programs, and you should rank the programs in your order of preference. So if you know that you really love the program that is 2 blocks down, rank that program as number 1. And every other program, same with every other program, rank them in order of your preference. The goal is that the GOE, if they can make you an offer to multiple programs, that they will make you an offer to the one that you ranked the highest. In May, families should receive an offer. Excuse me, we recommend that you register as soon as you get that letter to reserve that seat for your child for September. If you receive an offer to a program that is not the one that you ranked the highest, you will automatically be added to the wait list for any program that you ranked lower, and you may continue to hear from those programs through the summer. So getting into that first element, researching programs, where do you go? How can you learn more? One of the key tools that you have available is myschools.nyc. As I mentioned, we will be sharing a link to the slides, and so you can access all of the hyperlinked information that we have here. MySchools.nyc has one, a school directory, but it's also where you can go to submit an online application. So it is really one of the key resources in this application process. The DOE also has a Find a School website. This is really helpful in knowing if you have a zone school or just knowing where your school district is, because there may be admissions priorities related to where you live in order for your child to receive an offer to one of the programs. And the DOE also has websites dedicated to 3K and pre-K where you can learn in more detail about the program, the different setting types, the different seat types, and application dates and key information. So recommend that you explore all of these online options. Unfortunately, there is not as much in paper. There used to be online, or excuse me, like books directories like paper directories and books. We don't have those this year, but everything, if hopefully you can find it online. If you aren't able to access resources online, we do recommend you go to a family welcome center. And we have the link for you to find where those are located later in the presentation. Okay, so as I mentioned, My Schools is one of the most useful resources in searching for programs and also completing the application. If you enter your address on My Schools, it'll populate programs in your area. So you can specify 3K or pre-K based on the year your child was born. Enter your address. For 3K pre-K, you can create an account at any time. You do not have to wait for the DOE to send you a code or other information. You can start searching now. And because the application is open, you can also apply now as well. Once you enter your address, you will be populated with different 3K programs or pre-K programs in your area. There are a variety of filters that you can use in order to narrow down those options based on your preference. So some of the filters include by district. If you only are looking for schools in a specific neighborhood or school district, you can limit those. By setting types, this is what we went over earlier in terms of in district schools and pre-K centers, in New York City education centers, family child care, or charter schools. You can narrow it down to identify programs in that specific setting type. And seat type, which is it the school day, 6 hours and 20 minutes? Is it the longer extended day? Is it year round? You can filter for that as well. And accessibility. So if you or your child need a fully accessible school, for example, wheelchair accessible, or that can accommodate other mobility, vision, or hearing needs, you can use a filter to try to identify those programs, but just want to flag that for accessibility, a lot of the New York City early education centers, family child care centers, those programs that are not directly run by the DOE or not in Department of Education buildings, you may have to contact the programs directly in order to learn more and really discuss how accessible they are or what services they provide. For example, if it's all on one level, if there's an elevator, all of that information, you may need to call the program to learn more. But luckily, you can get the program and the contact information by clicking on that program. So once you use all the filters to narrow down your options, you will get a list of programs that meet that criteria. It'll let you know the seat type, the program type, the contact information for the school, so exactly where it's located, a telephone number, and usually also an email address. It will go over the admissions priorities and who or which students received offers last year to help you better understand how likely it is that your child may receive an offer to that program as well. It can also include other features. So whether they offer language support, if they have art classes, if they have kind of other services or programs that are not typically available in all 3K and pre-K programs. And there is also an area that'll cover upcoming events. So whether the school, for example, is having any upcoming open houses, if they're offering school tours, that can all be found by clicking on each individual program and getting more information. So as a reminder, and this is what it'll look like when you enter your address, you will see the name of a program. If you click on that blue hyperlink, it'll take you to the program's more detailed information. Do you want to flag for families that it does indicate here if a program is extended day and year, because that does trigger the additional eligibility criteria. So if you are interested in one of these programs, when you go to apply, you will be asked a series of screening questions to see if you are eligible. And if you receive an offer to the program, you will be required to provide documentation to confirm eligibility. So just noting that again, that any extended day year program or also the city transitional programs do have an additional eligibility requirement, whereas the school day programs do not. And so the second program on this list is pre-K school day. That would not require any additional documentation. The first program, the extended day year, would or does. Going to pause for questions. I know I've been kind of talking nonstop. So please, if you have any questions, if anything's not clear, put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. It looks like nothing's come up yet, and so we will keep going. So once you've explored programs and you have a good idea of where you want to apply, you should complete the application by February 27th. So this is coming up at the end of the month. Again, families of children born in 2022 are all eligible to apply for pre-K. This is for the 4-year-olds, and families of children born in 2023 should apply to 3K, the program for 3-year-olds. There are 3 ways to apply during the application process. One is on myschools.nyc. That's the directory and website that we just finished exploring. The other is applying by phone at 718-935-2009. That is the enrollment office. Or by visiting the Family Welcome Center. And these are centers that are located throughout New York City. And so there should be one. There are multiple in most boroughs, there are multiple welcome centers, so there should be one in your area. That is also the resource or the place you can go if you do have trouble with technology, if you're not able to access all of the guides and information electronically, you can go to the Family Welcome Center for hands-on in-person support. No matter how you apply, you have the right to apply in your language. So my schools, for example, can be translated into at least the top 13 languages. If you call or if you go to a family welcome center, the Department of Education also has interpretation services in over 200 languages. So no matter what language you speak, you should be able to apply in your preferred language. So want to go over now admissions priorities. This is how likely your child is to get a seat depending on the type of program that you're applying to. And so we know that 3K and pre-K are very popular programs. And sometimes more students apply or more children apply to a program than that program has seats, right? And so if a program gets 50 applicants, but they can only offer seats to 20 of them, there needs to be a criteria to identify who's getting those offers. And so the different setting types each have different admissions priorities, and we're going to start by going over the admissions priorities for district schools. So for district schools, which again are the elementary schools that may or may not offer 3K or pre-K, but if they do, then the admissions priority goes as follows. First would be offers to current students, right? Those would be the first children who would receive an offer. Obviously for 3K, there are no current students in district schools, but there could be for pre-K, right? If a program has a 3K program and a pre-K one, then those children who attended 3K have the highest probability of getting a seat for pre-K. Or so if they went there when they were 3, they have a high likelihood of staying there when they're 4. The next order of priority is for children who live in the school zone and will have a sibling attending the school next year. And so when I mentioned that DOE website where you can enter your address and find if you have a zone school or find your district, this is what I was referring to. If you are applying to 3K or pre-K in a district school and that school is your zone school, then your child has a high chance of receiving an offer to one of these programs, especially if they will have a sibling that's also attending the school next year. The next group of students who will receive an offer, if there are still seats available, will be other zone students. So children who live within the school zone but don't have siblings who will be attending the school. The next order of priority would be in districts, so students who live within the school district and will have a sibling attending the school next year. If there are still seats available, children who live out of the school district and have a sibling attending the school the next year. If there are still seats available, other students in the district. And if there are still seats available, other students who live outside of the district. This isn't to say that you shouldn't apply to a program that you have less chances of being accepted to. But sometimes we hear from parents like, I would like to apply to this school's pre-K program because it's close to where I work. And so that would be really convenient because, there's no busing, so I can apply to the program where I work and then I can take my child to school and pick them up. That's all well and good. If you're interested, you should apply, but you should also understand that if the school is not able to make a seat to all students, then it's not likely that it'll be able to offer placement to a child who lives outside of the district. And so, for example, if you work in Manhattan and you live in Brooklyn, it could be challenging to find a program that will have a seat for your child or be able to make an offer for your child in Manhattan. Okay. So now admissions priorities for pre-K centers. For children who are applying to pre-K, so the program for 4-year-olds, the students who have the first priority are current students, right? So if a pre-K program offers a 3K, those children who are 3 have the top priority to stay there when they turn 4 and attend the pre-K program. If there are still seats available, then offers will be made to children who live in the same district as the pre-K center. And if there are still seats available, then offers can be made to children who live outside of the district where the pre-K center is located. For 3K, it's a little bit different, right? There aren't any current students because there's no earlier age that's served in pre-K centers. So for 3K, admissions priority is 1 for children who have a sibling who will be attending the school there next year or will be attending the pre-K center next year. So if you have a 3 and a 4-year-old and one child already in the pre-K center, and will stay, is in the center and will stay there for pre-K next year, then you have a high probability that your younger child will also be able to attend the center. The next order of priority are other children who live in the district. And here, 2, if a child has a sibling who live in, so yes, children with siblings, other children who live in the district, and then other children who live outside of the district. Will receive offers. And so again, really always a priority in children who live closer to the program. Okay. So some trivia to see how much of this is sinking in. Which child has the highest chances of receiving a pre-K offer to a pre-K center program? 1, a child who has a sibling who will be attending the center next year. B, a child currently attending 3K in the center. C, a child who lives in the school district. Or D, a child who applies early. Okay, gonna give like 5 more seconds. Okay. Great. Most of you who answered correctly. The answer is B, a child currently attending 3K in the center. For pre-K, there's the priority to keep there's a priority for current students. So students attending 3K at the center have the highest priority to remain at the center for pre-K. So congrats to everyone who got that right. And if you're unsure about it, feel free to put questions in the chat and we can revisit it. So we're going to continue with admissions priorities. Now we're going to talk about New York City early education centers. So like we saw in other programs, the top priority is for current students. As I mentioned, many New York City early education centers also run infant and toddler programs. So there may be, if your child attended a program when they were 1 or 2, they would have the highest priority to remain there for 3K. If they attended for 3K, high priority to remain there for pre-K. Next, if there are still seats available, the program can make offers to siblings of current students, right? And so again, that priority that you've seen before, children who will have a sibling attending the school receive higher priority. If there are still seats available, then there's priority for families receiving social services from the organization. So this one we hadn't seen come up before, but many of these community-based organizations do offer a variety of services. And so families already connected to those programs do have priority for their child to attend 3K or pre-K when it's offered. Next, if there are still seats available, students who speak a language other than English, and this is specifically for pre-K, that program targets and serves. And so if it is a program that offers the language supports for a specific population and the child speaks that target language, there is also a priority for admissions. And then if there are still seats available, all other students have the same level of priority. And for all of these, within each even category, if there are, for example, if the DOE can offer seats to 5 siblings of current students, but 10 applied, how do we choose those 5? At that point, it is through a lottery. Everyone receives an application number, and it'll be based on that application number. So within each of these groups, so especially when we get to all other students, at that point, it is kind of by chance, by this like lottery or application number that you have. It is not based on order of when you applied, but a number that is generated for your application. Okay. Okay, so another round of trivia, because I know I'm covering a lot of material. If your child is attending 3K and you'd like them to remain in that program next year, you do not have to apply to pre-K. Is this true or false? May have stumped people because people are a little slow to respond. Okay, no, great. I didn't stump any of you. Everyone who has answered has gotten this correct. This is false. All families who are interested need to apply to pre-K, even if you want your child to remain in their current program. And so there are a lot of applications year after year for 3K, pre-K, and kindergarten. Even if you want your child to stay in the same school, stay in the same program, you do have to apply each year for these different programs. But once your child is in kindergarten, they may be able to stay there through middle school, and so you may not have to do any more applications. But these first few years, you do have to apply each year, even if you want your child to stay. But as you've seen, children, there is a high priority that your child will be likely to stay in the program the following year. Okay. So after you complete the application, you submit it by February 27th, then what happens? You wait. And then in May, you should receive an offer. As I mentioned, every family who applies for pre-K is guaranteed an offer. We're also expecting that for this school year, all families who apply to 3K will also receive an offer. Recommend once you receive that offer letter that you accept the offer and register your child to attend the school by the deadline that's given or is included in the letter. Accepting the offer and registering your child does not remove them from the wait list. you will receive one offer. So even if you apply to 50 programs in May, you will receive one offer. The goal is that, according to the DOE, they try to make you an offer to the school you ranked the highest. And so if they were able to offer you potentially a placement into 5 different schools, they're going to look for the school that you ranked number one and make you, or they ranked highest and make you an offer to that school. So if you do not receive an offer to your top choice school, you will be on the wait list for any school or any program that you ranked higher than the school that made you an offer. Registering your child does not remove them from the wait list. Registering your child is saying, I'm accepting this, put a hold, I want to reserve this program or this seat for my child for September. But if you later hear from a wait list, you can go back and cancel that registration, right? Decline that placement and accept the new one. And the wait list is open usually through even the first couple of weeks of September. So you could continue to hear from a program throughout the summer or even right when school starts. Generally, programs say, do not contact us, we will contact you. It may be a waiting game, but hopefully you receive an offer that you're really happy with through the application process. When you go to register, I'm just going to go over very briefly some of the documents that you need to bring with you. One is you need one proof of the child's age, and this could be the birth certificate, passport, or record of baptism. Then you need 2 proofs of address. This could include lease deed, mortgage statement, utility bill, rent receipt, government ID, things that, it's not any piece of mail. You can't bring like a magazine subscription, but a more formal document like bills and other things you can bring as proof. You do not need to provide proof of citizenship or a social security number. That should not be requested from you. And I just want to flag here for students in temporary housing, these children have a right to immediate enrollment, even if they do not have these records. And so, I think this is in recognition that it can be really challenging to secure this documentation if you're not in stable housing. And so families are allowed to register, the child can start attending school, and the family is given a grace period or time in order to secure the documentation needed. And also for families in temporary housing, there's flexibility with what the proof of address looks like. And we cover this really in detail in our guide. But for example, a family who's doubled up with another family that is considered in temporary housing. So you could get an affidavit or a different type of documentation if none of the bills, for example, are in your name. So for families, everything that we're talking about now is really geared, and this application process is geared towards getting a seat for September of 2026. If your child is age eligible, so if your child was born in 2022 or 2021, then they are eligible potentially for a 3K or pre-K seat right now. If your child is eligible but not in school and you'd like to consider potential options, there is a feature on My Schools, on that directory, for you to click on Need a Seat for this school year, and that'll generate a list of programs that report having some seats available now, so some open placements. You do not use My Schools to apply to those seats or to enroll your child, but you can use this filter to see if there are possible options, get the contact information for the school, and then you should contact that program directly to confirm seat availability and to go and register your child. Again, here, keep in mind that some programs do have that additional eligibility requirements, especially the extended day year programs. And so that is something that you would have to discuss with the program as well to make sure your child is eligible. Okay, another pause for questions. Okay, don't see any questions in the chat or the Q&A, so we'll keep going. Applying to pre-K in charter schools. As I mentioned, you can use My Schools to look up different charter schools, but you cannot use My Schools to apply to pre-K in charter schools because it is run through a separate application process. To find pre-K programs at charter schools, you can use, as I said, myschools.nyc. That's the directory we've been going over. Or you can also search on this different website, schools.nyc, charterschools.org, or which is specific to charter schools and has the information for pre-K programs as well as kindergarten and other grades. Generally, for charter schools, you contact the programs directly to apply. You do not use the 3K pre-K DOE application. Applications usually are due around April 1st. So the DOE application is due February 27th. So you do have some leeway or some time before you have to apply to charter schools. And usually for charter schools, admission is by lottery, although for students with older siblings, there may be some schools that offer that priority. I'm sorry, I failed to define charter schools. Charter schools are free public schools, but they're not run by the Department of Education. They're more independent and run by a board of trustees. And so I think most people now are familiar with charter schools. Just keep in mind they are not DOE schools, so you cannot use a DOE application to apply to them, but you can find where they're located using some of the DOE platforms like myschools.nyc. Another round of trivia to make sure you're still with me. Families have until February 27th to apply to pre-K programs in charter schools. True or false? And this one should be very easy. Okay. The correct answer is false. Families cannot apply to pre-K programs in charter schools using the DOE application. That is the application that ends on February 27th. To apply to charter schools, you should contact the charter school programs directly, and most of those applications are due around April 1st. So you have much more time to apply to pre-K programs at charter schools. And just another reminder, charter schools do not operate 3K programs. So it's only an option for children who are 4 or turning 4. Okay. As I mentioned, we're going to go over some additional rights of some special populations. And so we're going to start with students in temporary housing and children in foster care because a lot of these rights overlap. When I talk about students in temporary housing, the definition is pretty broad or broader than what most people think. So it does include children living in shelter. It also includes children living in a motel, a car, a bus or train, or with friends or relatives because a family has lost their housing or because of economic hardship. And so much broader than just children in shelter. Students in temporary housing and children in foster care both have the right to immediate enrollment, meaning a parent can go register their child and the child can start attending the school, even if they don't have all of the documentation that is usually necessary in order to register. Children in temporary housing and children in foster care also have the right to school stability. So even if they move throughout the school year, they have the right to continue attending the school that they were previously in, or the family can also choose the option of whether they would like to move their child to a closer school or program. Because of school stability, because that's so important, if a child needs transportation in order to be able to continue attending their school, they do have a right to transportation. As I mentioned earlier, transportation does not always mean busing. For many families, it may be that an adult is provided with an Omni card, or formerly Metro card, so that an adult can take the child to and from their 3K or pre-K program. There are some limited circumstances where a bus route may be available. We see this most commonly when it is a child attending 3K or pre-K in a district school program, and they also have an older sibling attending that program because typically that older student, right, that older sibling will have a bus because there is busing for elementary school programs. So if there is already a bus taking that older sibling to the same school, right, from the same home to the same school, then in those situations, we have had some success in getting transportation or busing services specifically for children in temporary housing or children in foster care. For children in temporary housing, for support with coordinating enrollment, transportation, or anything else, we recommend that families contact their DOE regional managers. These are borough specific with usually multiple multiple regional managers for each borough. They provide really hands-on support for students and families in temporary housing. For children in foster care, the foster care agency usually provides a lot of support. There's usually either a case planner or an education specialist on staff, and oftentimes these folks will help and proactively apply to programs for families. So if you are the parent of a child in care, or if you are working with children in care, do recommend that you touch base with the child care case planner or education specialist to see if perhaps they've already been working on an application for a student. Now we'll go over some additional rights of students with disabilities. Do encourage that students with disabilities apply to 3K and pre-K programs. All programs are required to serve children with disabilities. Children can receive their special education services in every 3K and pre-K program. Specifically, if a child's IEP or individualized education program recommends SEAT or special education itinerant services or related services, they can receive that in any 3K and pre-K setting. So in district school, in a pre-K center, in a New York City education center, in family childcare, children can receive their SEAT and related services across all of these settings. And so this application is your opportunity to express your preference so that if your child does have an IEP recommending these services, they can receive those in the program that you prefer. There's also access to behavioral supports and other services across all 3K and pre-K programs. Children in 3K and pre-K have some additional rights, including getting a program to add seats if there are no available programs in the area that have a seat available. Instead of having a child remain home, there is a possibility to get a program to add an additional seat so that a child with disability can enroll in that program, even if it would otherwise be considered as full. And children with disabilities have access, or all children have access to an accessible program that can meet the child's mobility needs. For help for questions with any, either with enrollment or with the child's IEP or preschool special education service plan, we recommend that you contact the CPSC office if it's related to preschool special education, or to contact the Office of Special Education. They can resolve questions with the IEP, help you with questions about whether your child can attend a program or enroll in a different program. And obviously, you can also contact us, Advocates for Children, at our helpline. Some children with disabilities may have more significant needs that may require a more supportive setting than what 3K and pre-K provides. So even though 3K and pre-K, they all serve students with disabilities across all settings, they are considered general education programs or classrooms. If a child has more intensive needs that requires a smaller classroom setting or requires a full-time special education teacher, for example, if the child's IEP recommends a special class in an integrated setting or a special class, then the Department of Education is responsible for identifying a program that can offer the child that type of classroom. A special class in an integrated setting is smaller than the typical 3K and pre-K program. It is a program that serves both students with and without IEPs, where there is a special education teacher there for the full day, and there may be additional teaching assistants as well to support. A special class is an even smaller class, either 6, 8, or 12 students with a special education teacher there all day, and usually at least 2 teaching assistants in the classroom. And it is a class that is where all the students are students with disabilities who have an IEP. For these programs, you do not apply to special classes in integrated settings or special classes through the 3K pre-K application. Again, if your child is recommended for one of these programs through their IEP, then the DOE is responsible for finding a program for that child. And in particular, it's the CPSC, or the Committee on Preschool Special Education. Children attending integrated classes or special classes have the right to busing. So these are the only preschoolers who have a right to a bus service from their home to the school. in order to answer if you have any busing questions, if this is what your child's IEP recommends and you have busing isn't set up or that you're having issues with transportation, recommend that you email the DOE at earlychildhoodbusing@schools.nyc.gov. Okay. One more trivia question. I think we're almost wrapping up. Families of children with disabilities should apply to 3K or pre-K now, even if their child does not yet have an IEP. Is this true or false? Okay, y'all answered this one pretty quickly, or those who did answered quickly, and you answered correctly. The correct answer is A, true. All families should apply now, should apply by February 27th to 3K or pre-K. If you're the parent of a child with a disability and you're worried, how will I know if this program can meet my child's needs? Shouldn't I wait until I get the IEP? Unfortunately, if you wait, if you may miss the deadline, so you could miss the opportunity to express your preference in a program that you would like your child to attend, and may only have the option to add your child to a wait list. As I noted, all of the programs serve students with disabilities, and if your child is recommended for just related services like speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, or a special education teacher to work with them for part of the day, those services can be provided across all the settings, so they are all considered the same in terms of what special education supports they offer. So this is your opportunity to apply, and if your child needs something more intensive, more supportive, then again, the DOE will be required to offer your child an integrated class or a special class. If you accept that, then you decline the 3K placement and choose a more specialized option. So everyone should apply by February 27th. Going to just quickly go over some additional populations, emergent multilingual learners. These are children who are learning or growing up speaking English and another language. The DOE offers different types of programs to support these children, including dual language programs, where there is instruction in English and in the home language, with the goal that the child will grow up learning both. There are enhanced language supports. This is a little bit less well defined, and do recommend that you contact the programs directly to know specifically what supports that they offer. This is generally seen in the New York City early education centers, and so it may be that they have some staff in their program that speak a language other than English and may have some material, so some poster boards, some books in the library, some other resources, but does not necessarily mean that instruction is provided in two languages. To learn more or ask for help, you can contact the DOE at the pre-K dual languages inbox, and they can help orient you as to what programs are available. There are filters on My Schools where you can note if you're looking for a program that offers dual language or enhanced language supports and screen by those. But as I said, you may see a lot of enhanced language support, and you have to contact the program to really understand what that is that they're offering. Okay, going to pause for questions. So there is one question. What is the legal age that a child has to be in school in New York City? And typically for the mandatory school age starts with first grade when a child turns 6. And so 3K, pre-K, infant and toddler, obviously, those are not mandatory programs, and neither is kindergarten. But we do highly recommend that families enroll their children in these programs and that children participate, because there is a lot of benefit, not just in the pre-academics and the learning, but also in the socialization components. A lot of benefits to attending these early childhood programs. Okay. Sorry, I'm running a little bit late, but we're going to go over now the infant and toddler and other early childhood options. So infant and toddler programs are free and low-cost programs that serve children from 6 weeks old to age 3. Once a child is 3 or 4, they would be considered a 3K or pre-K student, right? Infant toddler programs offer extended hours, up to 10 hours a day for the year, for year-round services. These are only for qualifying families. And for the most part, they're offered in New York City early education centers, so the community-based organizations, or in family childcare settings. To learn more about these types of programs about infant and toddler, recommend you visit this website, schools.nyc.gov/infant and toddlers. To find programs, you can call 311. You can also visit myschools.nyc, that directory we've been going over throughout this presentation. There is a function for infant and toddler specifically. You can apply at any time. It is not a centralized application process the way it is for 3K and pre-K. And for the most part, it is by contacting the programs directly. So you can find the program information on My Schools, contact them, see if they have a seat available, see what their eligibility requirements are, and they should help you complete the application. You can also visit mycity.nyc.gov. This is a city website or a portal where you can determine if you're eligible for what's called subsidized childcare, so for these extended day year programs, and also help you identify some programs in your area. For help with infant and toddler programs, you can visit a family welcome center. These are the DOE family centers that are located throughout the 5 boroughs. You can contact a child care resource and referral agency. They specialize in child care, so birth to 5, and they can help you determine eligibility, find programs, including, programs that are not run by the Department of Education. Or you can email, childcare application at schools.nyc.gov for some additional support. So what are some of these added eligibility criteria? So for infant and toddler extended day year program, to be eligible, family needs to show both financial need and some other factors. And that other factor is typically the need for care. So families may be eligible if they're on public assistance, if they have low income and need childcare because the parent is working or pursuing an educational degree or services. If another reason a family may be eligible is if they have an active case with ACS, if they're living in temporary housing or receiving domestic violence services. Some parents may have to pay a small fee. It's on a sliding scale based on their financial means in order to qualify for those added hours. Again, here, many of the same resources as the ones that were available for the infant and toddler programs, including calling 311, contacting a family welcome center, which you can visit in person, or calling a child care resource and referral agency. This is the link where you can find the information for all of those agencies. There are 2 new programs that you may have heard about. 2Care in particular has gotten a lot of media attention. These are new programs that are focused on the younger children, so infants and toddlers or children who are 2. But what makes these new is that they don't come with the additional eligibility requirements. That said, they are in much smaller scale. They are definitely not universal programs, or at least not yet. So there is currently a Birth to 2 childcare initiative that just started in January. It serves children from 6 weeks to 2 years old. It is a free program, whole day, year-round services. It's only in a few zip codes, like a couple of dozen zip codes. No additional eligibility requirements, though. And so if that is something you are interested in, visit schools.nyc.gov/Bright Starts. It lists all the zip codes and specifically the programs that are running the Birth to 2 program. And so you can check if space is available and consider contacting the programs directly to inquire about a seat. Then 2Care is going to start in September of 2026. The goal is that it'll be universal within 4 years. So this is going to be like 3K is for 3-year-olds, pre-K is for 4-year-olds. 2Care is the program for children the year they turn 2. The goal is that it'll be a free program. And so no additional eligibility requirements besides being a city resident and having a child who's age eligible. It is starting very small in September with about 2,000 seats across the city. We are told it's going to start in some specific school districts, but we don't yet know which school districts those will be. So here too, you should monitor the Bright Starts website to stay on track and learn more. Head Start is a program that's available outside of the Department of Education that offers year-round services and longer hours. It is a national program that is recognized for providing educational services, health, nutrition, social services for children and families who are eligible. There's Early Head Start for infants and toddlers and pregnant mothers, and then there's the more traditional Head Start for children from 3 to kindergarten. Here too, there are added eligibility criteria. A family has to qualify based on income, being in temporary housing, or in foster care, or receiving public assistance. For the application, you can go on the national website to find a program. As I mentioned, New York City also has some transitional seats, and so you can apply to those city transitional seats through the 3K and pre-K application. Okay, I'm going to pause for questions. I'm not seeing any in the chat, so I'm going to keep going, except I do apologize. I do want to just highlight for the childcare eligibility that I went over. One thing that I didn't note here, but I should, families completing the application for childcare subsidy are asked about the child's immigration status. So only children who have lawful status, which can include visa, asylum, legal permanent, lawful permanent resident, or U.S. citizen, are eligible or would qualify for a child care subsidy. If a child is undocumented, they are not eligible for the child care subsidy. The application only asks about the immigration status of the child. It does not ask about the parent or anyone else in the household, and you should not report it or volunteer that information. Okay, so sorry about that. Sorry to backtrack. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of that information. Okay, we are wrapping up in 2 minutes. And so thank you for your patience. Sorry to be going long. Just want to highlight here language access, having the right to translation and interpretation. Families have a right to information and documents in their language. The DOE, or New York City Public Schools, provides translation and interpretation in all 12 of these languages, including English, and more. And so that includes written materials, written educational records, notices about school closures, absences, anything like that, but also for interpretation for meetings when you're having a parent-teacher conference, when you're visiting a school, and this is true across all settings. If you are not receiving translation or interpretation, you can call the DOE to make a complaint at this telephone number, or you can submit an online complaint. Okay, and we're wrapping up with just some resources. Visit our website, Advocates for Children. We have a lot of material, including our guide, our applying to 3K and pre-K guide, which goes over everything we went over today and more. We also have materials specific for children with disabilities, including a guide to early intervention and preschool special education for children who are 3 and 4. You'll see on the bottom some of our resources available for children who are in kindergarten or about to enter kindergarten next year. And these are some resources from the DOE, including another link to the Family Welcome Centers where you can go in person if you need assistance, the Office of Student Enrollment that you contact with application questions, and the relevant websites for all the different programs that we covered today. And that's the end of the presentation. I know I covered a lot of information, and thanks for bearing with me as we went a few minutes over. If you have questions about anything I covered, if you run into challenges throughout the process, please call us, please call AFC. We're going to launch a survey now for you to let us know if this workshop or webinar was helpful to you. While you fill that out, I will continue to monitor the chat and the Q&A to try to answer any last-minute questions.